Why is the world divided the way it is? Why does one land give birth to civilization while another remains frozen and silent? And what if human history was not shaped by kings or wars, but by the land itself? Before borders, before nations, before names, there was only Earth. A single planet, restless and alive, slowly shaping itself over millions of years. Mountains rose, oceans widened, land drifted apart. And in that slow, unstoppable movement, the world was divided into what we now call continents. A continent is not just a large piece of land. It is a story written in stone, climate, and time. It is a place where nature sets the rules and humanity learns how to survive within them. Today, the Earth is divided into 7 continents, 7 vast worlds, each with its own identity, history, and destiny. And to understand human civilization, we must first understand these continents not as locations, but as living forces. Asia lies mostly in the northern hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere, stretching from the frozen Arctic in the north to tropical jungles near the equator. It is the largest continent on Earth, covering about 30% of the planet's land surface and home to more than half of the world's population. But Asia is not defined by size alone. It is defined by contrast. Here, the highest point on Earth rises into the sky, Mount Everest, and not far away lies one of the lowest points near the Dead Sea. Vast deserts stretch across Arabia and Central Asia, while dense rainforests grow in Southeast Asia. Frozen Siberian plains exist alongside monsoon-fed river valleys. Asia is where humanity learned to adapt to extremes. The great rivers of Asia, the Tigris, Euphrates, Indus, Yellow River, and Yangtze, became cradles of early civilization. Here, agriculture transformed nomadic groups into settled societies. Writing, mathematics, philosophy, medicine, and organized governance took their earliest forms. Asia gave birth to ancient empires, the Persians, the Mauryas, the Han, the Mongols, the Ottomans. It was along Asian trade routes that silk, spices, ideas, and religions traveled across continents. Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism, and Islam, these belief systems shaped not only Asia, but the world. Asia's cultural heritage is ancient and layered. Tradition and modernity exist side by side. Megacities rise where ancient temples still stand. In Asia, the past is never truly gone. It lives alongside the present. Africa lies at the center of the world, stretching across both the northern and southern hemispheres. It is separated from other continents by vast oceans and deserts, making it naturally distinct. Africa is the second largest continent by land area and the second most populous, but its greatest significance lies deeper than numbers. Africa is where humanity began. Modern humans evolved here, walked these lands, and eventually spread across the globe. Every human alive today carries Africa within them. Africa's geography is powerful and demanding. The Sahara Desert stretches across the north, one of the largest deserts on Earth. The Great Rift Valley marks the slow splitting of the continent itself. Dense rainforests, high plateaus, and long coastlines shape diverse climates and ecosystems. Along the Nile River, one of the world's earliest civilizations emerged. Ancient Egypt mastered architecture, mathematics, astronomy, and governance. Elsewhere, great African kingdoms rose: Nubia, Mali, Songhai, Aksum, rich in culture, trade, and knowledge. African culture has long been preserved through oral tradition, stories, songs, and memory passed down through generations.
Colonization disrupted these systems, drawing borders that ignored geography and culture.
Yet Africa remains one of the most culturally diverse places on Earth, with thousands of languages and traditions. Africa's population is the youngest in the world. Its future is still being written. This continent represents origin, survival, and resilience. Europe lies entirely in the northern hemisphere, mostly in the western hemisphere, though it is closely connected to Asia. Geologically, Europe is not fully separate, but historically and culturally it became distinct. Surrounded by seas and divided by mountains and rivers, Europe developed as a patchwork of regions rather than a single unified land. Europe is relatively small in size, yet its influence has been immense. Here, ancient Greece introduced philosophy and democracy. Rome built systems of law, engineering, and governance that still shape the modern world. Later, the Renaissance transformed art, science, and human thought. Europe's geography encouraged competition. Natural barriers created isolated kingdoms, leading to frequent conflict. Wars reshaped borders again and again. But from this conflict came innovation. Europe became the birthplace of the scientific revolution, the industrial age, and modern political ideas. Its empires spread across the world, reshaping continents far beyond its own borders. European culture values written history, institutions, and structured knowledge. Libraries, universities, and archives became symbols of power. Europe represents ambition, ideas, and contradiction. North America lies entirely in the northern hemisphere, stretching from the Arctic Circle to the tropics. Bound by oceans on both sides, it developed in relative isolation from the Old World for thousands of years. This continent is vast, with diverse landscapes, mountain ranges, plains, forests, deserts, and coastlines. Long before modern nations, indigenous peoples thrived here. They built complex societies, managed ecosystems, and developed deep spiritual connections to the land. Their civilizations were shaped by harmony with nature. When European explorers arrived, North America changed rapidly. Migration, colonization, and industrial growth transformed the land within centuries. Cities rose where forests once stood. North America became a place of reinvention. People from across the world arrived, bringing cultures, ideas, and conflict. This continent grew into a center of economic and technological power. Its culture reflects movement and change. Innovation, expansion, and identity define its story. South America lies mostly in the southern hemisphere, connected to North America by a narrow land bridge. This continent is dominated by the Andes Mountains, which run along its western edge like a spine. These mountains shaped everything, from climate to civilization. Here, ancient societies like the Inca built empires without iron tools or written language. They mastered agriculture at high altitudes and built roads across mountains. The Amazon rainforest, vast and mysterious, concealed civilizations for centuries. European colonization brought collapse and transformation. Yet indigenous cultures survived, adapting and preserving their heritage. South America's cultural identity blends ancient traditions with colonial influence. Music, language, and ritual reflect resilience and memory. Australia lies entirely in the southern hemisphere, isolated by vast oceans. It is the smallest continent and one of the most geographically stable. Because of its isolation, life here evolved differently. Unique animals, ancient ecosystems, and some of the world's oldest continuous cultures exist here. Indigenous Australians lived on this land for tens of thousands of years, guided by deep spiritual relationships with nature. Isolation preserved traditions but limited contact. When colonization arrived, change was sudden and irreversible. Australia represents isolation, endurance, and survival in balance with nature.
Antarctica lies at the southernmost point of Earth, entirely within the Antarctic Circle. It is the coldest, driest, and most remote continent. No permanent human population lives here. Antarctica is covered in ice, holding most of the planet's fresh water. It plays a crucial role in regulating Earth's climate. Scientists study its ice to understand the past and predict the future. This continent belongs not to nations, but to humanity as a whole. It reminds us that the Earth existed long before civilization and will endure beyond it. If this journey across the continents is helping you see the world differently, and if you enjoy history explained through story and meaning, consider subscribing to the channel. Not for updates, but for understanding. Together, these 7 continents form a single planet. Each one shaped human behavior in its own way. Rivers created cities. Mountains created borders. Oceans created separation. Human history did not unfold randomly. It followed the contours of the land. This video was only an introduction. In upcoming episodes, we will explore each continent in depth, its civilizations, conflicts, cultures, and transformations. Because to understand humanity, we must first understand the ground beneath our feet. This is not just geography. This is history written by the Earth itself.